Hi Poimo, I have your test here, and so I'm going to go over the questions that you missed and hopefully clear up any confusion that you might have. So the first question asks for the solution. When we solve inequalities, we solve them just how we do with equations. There's one little rule regarding multiplying and dividing by a negative, which I'm sure we'll see coming up. So I'm trying to get the variable by itself. I see subtraction, so I have to undo subtraction with addition. And when I add negative 13 and 27, I get positive 14. So y is greater than or equal to 14. This one asks which of the answer choices below has the same solution set as the inequality. So you're looking for an inequality where they're doing the same thing to both sides. So in the first inequality is not correct because they flipped the sign, and we don't need to flip the sign there. The one that you chose, we dropped the or equal to line. We don't ever do that. Option 3 has adding 2 to one side and adding 8 to the other side. Remember, when you solve inequalities or equations, you have to add the same thing to both sides, so that doesn't work. So the correct answer is the fourth one. They're adding 2 to both sides and nothing else has changed. It's not how we would solve it. We would solve it actually by adding 8 to both sides, but when you solve equations and inequalities, you actually can do whatever you want as long as you do it to both sides. We just try to do the process to solve it, but you could add a million to both sides if you wanted to. Question 4 asks which graph shows the correct solution. So I'm going to rewrite it over here. Negative 3.55g is less than or equal to negative 28.4. So this is multiplication. So we are going to divide by a negative 3.55 on both sides. And when you are solving inequalities and you divide by a negative, this is when you flip the symbol. It's the only time it happens, when you multiply or divide by a negative. So now in my calculator, I'm going to type in negative 28.4, and I'm going to divide that by negative 3.55, and I get positive 8. So G is greater than or equal to positive 8. So I'm looking for a number line that has the number 8 has the circle filled in because it's or equal to. Remember, this line under it is what gives you the filled in circle on 8. And then we're talking about all the numbers greater than or equal to 8, so that's everything to the right. Question 5, which graph represents the solution set? So we have to be kind of careful here. When the variable is on the right-hand side, I always teach my students to rewrite it so the variable is on the left. Also notice when you do that, when you rewrite an inequality the other direction, we do have to flip the symbol. So this says x is greater than negative 14.5. Remember, when we're going in the negative direction, the larger the digit when they're negative, actually the smaller the number. Negative 14.5 is between negative 14 and negative 15, and you have it up here. That's actually negative 13.5. It is an open circle, and it is shaded to the right. Question 6, which sentence can represent the inequality? So we're multiplying 2.4 times a subtraction problem, essentially a difference. 2 4/10 multiplied by the difference of 6 2/10. So when you say multiplied by the difference, that means we're multiplying something by a subtraction problem, and that's where you see that distributive property there. Is more than negative 4. So let's look at the one you picked. 2 4/10 times 6 2/10 minus a number. So we are showing multiplication of these two numbers, your expression or your set of words here, your sentence, and then it says minus a number. So that's what yours would look like, no distributive property. We want to make sure when we're talking about the distributive property that we're multiplying it by a sum or multiplying it by a difference. That's what tells you about the distributive property. This one just asks for the solution. So we are multiplying by 3/4, so now we're going to divide by 3/4. on both sides. That's what cancels, so I can get the variable by itself. 3/4 is actually 0.75, so we could put that in a calculator. Remember that the 16 is negative, so negative 16 divided by 0.75. This gives us a decimal in my calculator that's a repeating decimal, negative 21 and 21.3 repeating. So when we look over here, you don't see decimals, but 0.3 repeating is the same as 1/3. So there's option 3A is greater than 21 and 1/3. Asks for the solution here, so we're just going to solve. Okay, undoing the -8 first, we always undo addition and subtraction first. So I get 2x is less than 20. Whoops. And then dividing both sides by 2. I'm dividing by a positive number here. I do not flip my symbol. X is less than 10. Which graph shows the solution set? So again, we have to solve it. So we are going to subtract 3 from both sides. Again, undoing addition with subtraction. 2x is greater than -12. We divide both sides by 2. Again, the number we're dividing by, which is 2, is positive, so I don't flip my symbol. And x is greater than -6. So we need -6 with an open circle because it's just greater than, and it's shaded to the right. We're talking about all the numbers greater than -6. Remember, you can also look at the symbol as a direction. It's pointing to the right, so we're shading to the right. Which inequality has an arrow pointing to the left when the solution set is graphed on a number line? So the reason why the one you chose doesn't work is because the variable's on the wrong side. So again, this is where it's always important to make sure that when you're working with inequalities, you've got the variable on the left. Because when I rewrite that inequality, now it does point to the right, and so the only one pointing to the left is the first one. Which inequality represents this sentence? 4 9/10 less than the product of a number and 6 is no more than 18 1/8. So here we have to be careful because we actually see less than and more than. So which one is subtraction? Which one's addition? Which one is my inequality symbol? So in order for it to be the inequality symbol, it has to have the word is with it. So this is where our inequality is going to go. This less than that you see at the beginning is actually subtraction. So 4 9/10 less than the product. So now I'm multiplying something. I'm multiplying a number and 6. So they use x for their number. I'm multiplying a number and 6 is no more than. When we say no more than, I know we see the word more, but it actually means less than or equal to. It means it can't go over a certain number, but it can be under a certain number. 18 1/8. So now still some more pieces here. First, we typically write x times 6 as 6x. Also, when we see the words less than, we actually have to switch the order of what we're subtracting. When we say a certain number less than something else, you start with the something else and you subtract that number from it. So this becomes 6x minus 4 9/10 is less than or equal to 18 1/8. Which statements are true about the solution? Select 3 options. So this is one where I would solve this first. We're going to subtract 22 from both sides, trying to get that x by itself. Notice the x is over on the right-hand side. We will fix that in a minute. But 15 minus 22 is -7. So I have -7 is greater than or equal to x. I'm going to rewrite it. X is less than or equal to -7. Remember, when you flip things around, the symbol flips. So this one is not correct. This one is. The graph does have a closed circle because of the or less than or equal to underneath. -6 is not part of the solution because that is actually greater than -7. Remember, on a number line, we would be closed circle at -7. -6 is this way, -8 is this way, but we're shading that direction. So -6 is not part of the solution. -7 is because of the line under the inequality symbol. we're at 19 now. This just asks for the solution. So we're going to solve it. Maybe. Here we go. 2 3/5 is less than b minus 8/15. And we're going to add 8/15 to both sides. When we add fractions, we have to have a common denominator. When we're working with fractions that are mixed, it's easier to put them in improper. So I'm going to make this improper first. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 3 is 13. So we have 13/5 plus 8/15. Now I need to get a common denominator and multiply the top and the bottom here by 3 to get a common denominator of 15. I'm just doing some side work right now because I need to add these two fractions together. First, the second fraction doesn't change. The first one becomes 39 over 15. 39 plus 8 is 47. So we get 47 over 15. So I'm going to go back and write that. Again, this was like my side work. So 2 3/5 plus 8/15 is 47/15, and that's less than b. But I want the variable on the left-hand side. And you'll notice none of these answers have improper fractions. Whoops, that's a 15. So now I have to change my 47/15 to a mixed number. 15 goes into 47, 15, 30, 45. That's 3 times with 2/15 left over. So you can see the last option there. Again, solving these inequalities are just like solving equations. Subtract 6 from both sides. 4x is less than or equal to 12. Divide both sides by 4. That undoes the multiplication. And we get x is less than or equal to 3. Which number line shows the graph of this? Again, the variable's on the wrong side, so I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to flip the inequality symbol. X is greater than negative 2.75. So at negative 2.75, we want an open circle, which you see in the second option. And we want a shade to the right, because when we rewrite the inequality correctly with the variable on the left, this says x is greater than negative 2.75. The numbers that are greater are to the right. Which shows the correct solution to the inequality. Here they subtract. They get a common denominator. And they did not subtract correctly on that one. That first one. Man, this is hard to tell where I think it's right here. Yeah. So on this one, let's see, we subtract 1 5/8 from both sides. That works. They get a common denominator. 28 over 40 minus 1 25/40. Again, I would make that improper. Because we can't actually subtract a bigger number from a smaller number. Now we have to add the opposite. So let's just do, I would have done 28 over 40 minus 40 plus 25 is 65 over 40. Oops, that's 40. And so then when you subtract 28 minus 65, I just grabbed my calculator, is negative 37. And the denominator stays the same. And so this is what it would have looked like. I'm right here on that step. If you were to subtract the fractions as improper, and then we need to rewrite it. So p is less than or equal to negative 37 over 40. A clothing store offers a free t-shirt when a customer spends $75 or more. She's already spent this much. Which statement best represents all of the amounts he can spend to get a free t-shirt? So he's spent $36.95 and he's going to spend more. We don't know how much more yet. And that needs to be greater than or equal to 75. So when we subtract $36.95 from both sides, we get x must be greater than or equal to 75 minus 36.95 is $38.05. So he needs to spend $38.05 or more. And then the last one that you missed asks for the solution. So we're just solving. We're going to subtract 1/4 from both sides. X is less than, so now I had to do some side work, 5/6 minus 1/4. Both of these numbers evenly go into 12 to get a common denominator. Multiply the top and the bottom by 2. Here we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 3 because we got to get 12. 10 minus 3 is 7, so we get 7/12. X is less than 7/12. Okay, that was a lot. I hope you really take some time to watch this video and try to figure out, what I'm doing to solve these inequalities. Again, they are so much like solving equations. Please reach out if you have any other questions, and then you can retake the test when you're ready. Thanks.